Welcome back to Visa and TV, the show where we're on a journey to become the best versions of ourselves while knowing that we're always enough along the way. I'm your host, Brit Mogensen, and I am so happy you're here because we have two fantastic guests. First, Dr. Rafael Gonzalez, who is on the medical team at ProLon. Now, ProLon is a really exciting, cutting-edge nutritechnology. A lot of celebrities are fans of this product. It's a 5-day fast mimicking diet. It's something that I'm actually going on as well. I read a book called Longevity by Dr. Longo, the creator of the ProLon fast mimicking diet. And once I read it, learned about all of the research, I knew that I had to talk to this company and have someone on the show. This is something that I'm very passionate about. I'm a former fitness instructor. I have definitely seen what happens as we get older, and I want to face the future with bravery and with knowledge. And I'm sure that you guys do too. So Dr. Gonzalez is going to break down a lot of the cutting edge science, things that a lot of us haven't had access to. He's going to tell us about how cells regenerate, how we can do that through the foods that we eat. This is such important information that you're not only going to want to take with you, you're going to want to share this with your friends and families. Then we have Erica Berry, also known as Injector Bunny on Instagram. She has a huge following. You probably already stalk her on Instagram like I do. She's going to tell us what really works, what doesn't work. She's going to spill the tea on skincare, and she's not afraid to tell the truth. So you guys are really going to love hearing from her. We're going to learn so much. So without further ado, we have such fantastic guests. Let's get right into these interviews. Dr. Gonzalez, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about the ProLon diet. This is really exciting.
Thank you very much. Pleasure and honor to be here, and pleasure to educate. I love doing this. Love it.
It's so much fun. And I just did a deep dive. I read this book over the weekend, last weekend, and I realized that there was so much that I don't know. I think there's so much that our viewers have yet to learn as well. And so this is a real treat to get to ask you these questions and continue to learn more about ProLon, but also longevity in general. This is an exciting area of study right now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, one of the most important aspects of all of it is essentially if you caloric restrict and if you eat the right way, it's been demonstrated to lead to longevity. Live that healthier lifestyle. And actually what we discuss in the context of health span.
And health span versus lifespan, those can be two different things, correct?
100%, because nobody wants to be living a life that's miserable.
Absolutely. And when reading this book, when learning more about ProLon, I realized that there are so many things that we do, I think, as a public, just, without really thinking about it, that seem like a normal part of our day or just a normal part of life that aren't really good for us. It seems like the standard American diet is really far off from the longevity diet.
What we consume on a regular basis as individuals, you drive through, you pick up, no pun intended, you go back and pick up McDonald's, those French fries, highly in preservatives, worst type of oils and fats. And then think about, Brittany, that one time that you had that extra slice of pizza when you shouldn't have had that. All of a sudden, you just feel wiped out. You're tired.
Yes.
You're like, wait a second, I shouldn't have had that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You need to go take a nap, or your gut feels bad because you had 3 slices instead of 2 slices. And what's the natural thing that happens? You can't eat anymore. Not only am I affecting your gut, but I'm now affecting your liver with your metabolic function. I'm now affecting your neurological function, which all of a sudden you're completely thrown out of whack, and you naturally put yourself in that region of, let me not eat.
I actually, when doing the research for this interview, I saw a lot of different videos, even from other television shows that are widely watched, talking about how ProLon could be considered a fad diet. And I was like, oh, they didn't read the longevity book. They did not do their research, because if they had, they would realize this isn't just about caloric restriction. This is the furthest thing from a fad diet. It's the opposite spectrum. It's a well-researched thing that you can actually do to integrate into your daily life so that we have the balance, because it can be really hard to eat in accordance with the longevity diet 24/7, but it allows us to integrate that into our lifestyle in a way that feels manageable. And will you tell us about some of like the benefits? Like, what can we gain when we do take the time to put ourselves first? It is a lifestyle shift, but doing like this 5-day fast, for example, that I'm actually about to undertake, and I can't wait.
The neat thing about it is it's a commitment for 5 days. I'm not asking you for a commitment for 30 days straight of pure dieting, restriction, all that. It's
Mhm.
just a 5-day fast, 78 different ingredients that are actually in there. And it's a caloric restricted diet. The journey is as simple as you're going to be eating to put you in a fasting state. And the concept behind the food is let's not elevate blood glucose levels, because as soon as we do, we have been thrown out of fasting.
Just to get a little bit more into the science and the benefits beyond the caloric restriction, because I really feel like that's a block for people. They see that and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to do that. That's silly." Well, it's a complex system that you guys as scientists have figured out that when you do it in this order, when you do it with these particular ingredients, these things in this box, they're here for a reason. Will you tell us about the way that these things kind of work together and what they do in the body, way beyond like any weight loss goal, or just how they help you in your cells? And we explained the glucose that you were talking about, why that's important that our glucose doesn't spike.
It helps control blood sugar, metabolic function. That's number one. And that's so important. There's not enough emphasis done on the liver, which is what that job has to, entail, is basically breaking down and building up the correct things.
Mhm.
That's number one. Number two is it does this process to you that's called autophagy. And autophagy, a lot of people were like, what is that? Well, so auto means self, phagy actually means consumption. And it's when your body has things in your body that when you put it into somewhat of a stress or a starvation mode, it needs to remove it. Your body now consumes these things as energy. It'll take them, remove them, and consume them as energy so your cells can maintain the correct amount of health. All this study is actually, all the diet is designed, essentially, the food is designed to keep cells healthy. The
Love
other
that.
positive thing about it is neurologically. People discuss, for instance, you're on day 4 and day 5. Oh, wow, I'm on this like a most amazing high. And it's because you have hit that cellular rejuvenation state. And now you feel phenomenal. You have cleansed the body. Secondarily, that the best part is you lose weight. You're going to lose weight. And then people say, well, wait a second, I've caloric restricted. And if I caloric restricted, I've lost water weight. I've lost muscle weight. Not with this diet. This is scientifically proven to maintain muscle mass.
Wow, because your body is really, the autophagy process is getting rid of what your body no longer needs, basically.
Excess fat is part of that. Excess part toxins are held in fat regularly. So
Mm.
those are actually removed. And actually, that's part of one of the targets. But ultimately, even behavioral changes. Because when you're done with this diet, for instance, there was a large survey done on many patients that did this. 89% of them actually discussed, you know what, after I finished this, I became a lot more mindful of what I'm going to put in my mouth now.
Mm.
Remember, Brittany, everybody knows this. People have asked me the question, what is the number one thing for longevity and health? And I always say the same thing, what you put in your mouth.
Mhm.
They say, what do you mean what you put in your mouth? Your diet, what you consume on a daily basis is sort of what can help you maintain health and help you maintain longevity. You can be disabled, injured, but you still have full control. Therefore, you can't exercise. You still have full control of what you're feeding yourself or what somebody else is feeding you. And there is
Wow.
nothing more important. You can work out all you want. You can be in massive amount of shape. But if you don't eat correctly, you're not healthy. And everybody knows this. There's nothing more important.
It's sort of like the opposite then of wanting to lay down after having one too many slices of pizza. So you say that you get this like feeling of, being on a high, or like this euphoric feeling, because it's the opposite of that. It's like you're energized now because your cells are like functioning optimally, like you're feeling good.
You start going into a fasting state.
Okay.
And what that essentially entails is you've essentially cut down on your calories, and the body now registers that and says, I need to go a different route for energy. And it puts you into something that everybody's heard about, is ketosis. Everybody thinks about, I'm going to do a keto diet. Keto diets are like, wait a second, that's all fat, protein. No, it's not. Your body naturally does this when you go into somewhat of a starvation mode or somewhat of a hungry mode. It has to do this. It finds other energy sources to maintain homeostasis. Homeostasis is we want to maintain optimal health. That's what the body wants to do. That's step 2. And then after that, we now go into step 3, which is step 3 on day 3 is autophagy. And we start considering in that context of I need to consume anything bad in my body to maintain health. I need to continue to take out all the cellular debris. Any cells that were bad are going to die off, but I can use this as energy so I can maintain a health. Day 4, when you're on this diet, you go into what's called the rejuvenation state. This is when people start saying, wow, I feel good. You know, for instance, in day 3, sometimes people say, oh my, I feel crappy. People talk about like what they say, keto flu, or
Yes.
different other types of flu that you sort of feel like, oh, you're wiped out. This is difficult.
If people understood the level of benefit that they're receiving, they may be more willing to push through the uncomfortable feeling that comes with doing something that's different from your routine, because you are changing your lifestyle for just 5 days. But still, if you're not used to that, I could see someone being like, oh my gosh, I don't feel well, or whatever is coming through when you're in that ketosis state. And what does ketosis do for people? Why is that such a thing that everyone wants to get into that state?
It essentially shifts where what you're burning, what you're using for energy. That's all it actually does. It's one of the key components of it is shifting, making that shift for you. So you're using energy in a different manner. You're actually burning, even though, for instance, many times you can do high fat, whatever it may be, you're burning fat to use it as energy. You have to find an alternate route versus standard glucose metabolism, sugar metabolism. So we're now using other methods to obtain energy that are beneficial for us. If you look at what you just said, the pain, the suffering, whatever you want to call it, as some people may call it, we are designed, we as individuals are hormetic. I don't know how many people don't know too much about this term, hormesis. The term hormesis is actually a term that our bodies have to go through regularly to heal. Simple examples of hormesis is essentially a negative response to produce a complete positive naturally. Simple example, everybody's heard of the cold plunge, right? The cold plunge is like the new hottest thing to do.
Right.
You go in there and you freeze, but what happens when you freeze and you're cold and you're shivering?
It feels so bad at first. You're like pins and needles. Like, oh.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. But then what happens after that is you get these cold shock proteins that are released. You get a positive response. The liver's cleansed, the body's cleansed. You have this euphoric feeling. It's just part of life, and it's part of the way cells work, and cells need it. You can force that change by doing something that is a stressor, which is what we're talking about now, to make a positive response. Because come that day 4, you go into that cellular rejuvenation. People describe this all the time. I feel so much better. I feel like I have energy. And then when you go into that day 5, it's when everybody's like complete euphoria, full regeneration. You've now cleansed. And these are all documented, demonstrated, scientifically proven, and leading to longevity. Just taking 5 days out of your month to do this, not 30 days, just do this 5 days. And then think of the consequences of what you just went through, which is what I just told you on that survey. People think about this and they say, I need to change my habits. I need to make a change because I want to continue to feel like I do on day 5.
Wow. I love that it's kind of that concept also of like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's like, we all know that the harder we work for things, the better the payoff, the stronger we get as individuals. And doing something like this with the science behind it, I would say, like, if you're lacking motivation, you can just tell yourself, like, read the book, remind yourself of what you're getting out of this and how it so outweighs, 24, 48 hours of feeling a little bit, uncomfortable or different than you're used to. Wow. I love it. I think that's so fantastic. And what about, like, what would your advice be to like help inspire and motivate people who are on the fence or who, they've tried something like this before and they're not sure if they want to, try that again?
So ProLon also offers a reset, which is a 1-day box. It's just like, try that one day. I do that regularly whenever, for instance, Easter, Christmas, the holidays, too much family comes around. What does everybody do? You indulge. You're together. You're
Yes.
feasting. It's sort of like you feast and then you famine. So it's what you try to do, and you do that to cleanse yourself, because when you've overindulged, you don't feel well.
Mhm.
That day is hard. You can cleanse by doing that reset, by just doing a 1 day box, and then having that baby step. That baby step now tells you, this is what I'm going to do for 5 days when I dedicate myself to do this for 5 days. That's one. Two, always when anybody's doing any form of caloric restriction, anything that's dedicated, do this when you're the most busiest. I tell people to focus on that Monday through Friday. If you're working Monday through Friday, if you work Tuesday to Saturday, think of that. And think of your eating patterns of how you eat. Everybody's different. We're all completely different. I'm an evening eater, an afternoon eater. I normally do like intermittent fasting. I'll wait until 12 o'clock. Then I'll start eating. Even in the context of ProLon, I'll start my first that breakfast bar at 12 noon because I'm so used to it. My body's used to it. And I'll actually start it then, and then I'll consume the rest of it during that 6 or 7 hour period. All of it in that one consumption window. For those that are early morning eaters and don't eat late at night, many people are like that, you would do the complete opposite. Ultimately, you have to consider, what is my comfort, how I normally do this, so this way I'm not throwing myself too much off, and then go with the busiest times. What are my 5 days that I'm busiest? And then lastly, sleep. There's nothing more important than healing than doing this, and get that sleep.
Mhm.
Because a lot of us, for instance, I'm guilty of it. At night, I'll finish, let's say, last meal 6, 7 p.m. And then if at 9 or 10 or 11 comes around, what happens? You want to snack, you want to eat.
Mhm.
Force yourself to get that rest. Go to
Right.
bed.
That's
Get
one
those
way
9
to
hours.
deal with it. Get extra
Correct.
sleep and then you won't be, and also you're not tempted to snack. It's like you get that
And you're
second
not
wind
tempted to
for
snack. Yep.
nothing. Yeah. You need to go to sleep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Focus on it. Give yourself 5 days. Take care of yourself. If you don't, nobody else is going to.
Absolutely. You deserve it. We all deserve it. We should all be taking care of ourselves. And the research is there, the science is there. I encourage anyone to read this book, The Longevity Diet, if you want some more background information, and go to the ProLon website. There are so many different options. If you do just want to maybe put your toe in the water first, you want to try the 1 day fast. I'm going to go all in with the 5 day because I have read the book.
Do it.
I do understand the research. And so I know it's well worth the sacrifice for 5 days. So I encourage everyone else to do that. And Dr. Gonzalez, where do you recommend that people go for continued inspiration or to keep learning more? Where can people find you if they want to follow your research and work?
You can just look up my name, look up stem cells. You can look at my name, look up NK cells. You'll see many videos, many different podcasts that I've been on, and you'll learn quite a bit. And then if you need support, once again, you talked about support, the ProLon website, one. Two, Facebook has a ProLon Nation. I don't know if you've seen this. It's pretty neat. Once you're doing the diet, you can log on. There's always people doing this diet. There'll be somebody there, and you're always welcome to reach out to the scientific and the clinical staff at ProLon. There's easy links that you can find on our websites to ask. We respond really, really quickly. We're here to help. It's a caloric restricted diet. Just be ready for it when you're ready to do it. And then the most important part of it, when you're ready to do it, be ready to feel better when you're done.
Well, that
Yes.
is so fantastic. That's great to know. And I hope everyone continues to learn more. Like I said, read the book, go to the website. You'll be fascinated with what you learn. And thank you so much, Dr. Gonzalez. I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate everybody's time. I'm here to help. Thank you.
Erica, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to get to chat with you.
Excited to be here, especially on a Monday. It was like crazy rain today, and then the sun just came out as soon as you Zoomed me.
Okay, fantastic. And you are really like just well known in your industry for training other people. You
Yeah.
you really know your stuff. If anyone goes to your Instagram, you're someone that's like well informed and
Yeah.
also popular on social media. So it's a cool mix that we get with you. And like you are great with like your myth busting. So I want us to get into all of it today. I want us to talk about some of your like celebrity secrets, things that you think people might be using. So I'm excited to have you do some myth busting for us. And I would love to start by asking you about like your approach to long-term like rejuvenation. How do you think people should
Mhm.
approach that? Because it's something we're probably gonna be doing it for many years.
Yeah. I would say everyone is so different. And that's what the biggest issue is in this industry, meaning your budget, your fears, your anxieties, all of those things really play like a huge role on it. And that's what makes injecting so hard. So I would say the best thing to do is to sit down and make a year-long consultation with your provider
Love
and
that.
really ask like the nitty-gritty. And I don't know why half my patients, they don't care at all. They're like, they will just ask anything. And then half my patients are so reserved. I'm like, but this is like, you're paying for this. So I really just get in the nitty-gritty, like their goals, their hopes, their dreams, their budget. And I think that's a really hard conversation to have. So I would say never let the sun touch your face ever. I would say try to hold off on fillers for as long as you can, which people are gonna be like, what? But that's what you do for a living. I think when you do it too young and you do too much, you start to look older than you really are.
Mhm.
Do Botox preventatively when you start to have like the deep set wrinkles at rest. This is the one that no one ever thinks of, Sculptra. So Sculptra is an injectable that basically it's not a filler, but we inject Sculptra to make your own collagen. And
Whoa.
so it's like your own collagen, it's your own face, it's everything. It's nothing like, synthetic. And that is to me, for me, like the number one thing that's kept me looking younger. So I highly recommend that.
And why have I never heard of that? Like, this is why we have you here. Oh my gosh.
I
Shining
think
a light.
it's pretty advanced. And I'm going to be honest, as a
Wow.
provider, if you're newer or apprehensive at all, it's very hard to talk to your patient about it because it's can be costly. There's a lot of bruising involved. There's not a lot of, it's not like getting your nails done. We're like at the end of the appointment, like, oh, look at my nails. You basically have a face full of like water, and then you are just unhappy for about 10 weeks. And then it takes 10 weeks for it to really settle in. So
Okay.
that's the only thing that sucks. Like you have to be patient with it.
Okay, so let's talk about facial harmony, which is one of your specialties. What are your thoughts on facial harmony and approaching the face like in a holistic way instead of just going in and being like, I want a little bit of Botox here?
Yeah. Well, that's the only way I practice. So
Okay.
I can't do, and I say to my patient, because people come in, I don't see any patients right now, but when I do see a patient that I've seen in a while, or that maybe one of my other injectors saw, and they're like, yeah, I just want Botox right here. I say, I honor what you want, but I cannot do that in good conscience. And the way I explain it, when you have a leg, you have a quadricep and a hamstring. And if you didn't have both those muscles working in unison, you wouldn't be able to walk. So same thing in your face. If I just do this area, these muscles are going to pull down and you're going to look really crazy. And so when people are botched from Botox, it's not usually too much Botox. It's usually Botox in the wrong spots.
I love that you do approach things in that way. You really do take things, you're an educator as well. I mean, so obviously it shows you go into like many, many layers. So when someone is thinking of getting something done, is there anything that you would tell them? I mean, when you said like people are going through things and sometimes they want to get plastic surgery or whatever, is there any like emotional little checklist someone should do if they're maybe going through something and wanting to do a lot of things to their face
Yeah,
in that
we
moment?
are starting to do more body dysmorphic disorder, BDD screenings, and that's become really big, I think, since COVID.
And
Before
Megan
that,
Fox talked about that in a GQ article recently as well.
yeah.
Mhm.
And not that I ignored it before, I think I just wasn't experienced enough to really see it. And then once I see it, like, how do I approach it and how do I deal with it? So I think now I'm very big on like doing a check. We actually have a checklist. And the biggest checklist is that, or the top thing of the checklist is when you hold up a mirror, how do you feel about the reflection looking back at you? And if people like, I have some patients, I'm not even exaggerating, they take the mirror and they cannot even look in the mirror. Yeah. And it's sad to me. And I'm like, you're beautiful. You're like gorgeous. Like, what is going on? But even for me tonight, where I was taken off guard, Libby didn't tell me I had makeup or anything, but I'm still able to sit here and like do an interview. Some people are so body dysmorphic that they cannot even be seen without makeup or eyelashes or hair being done. And I'm like, no amount of injections is going to really help you or make you happy. So it's a hard thing.
We just did on the last episode, we had Dr. Shayna on, who is a mental health professional who specializes in self-love. And she has a book called The Self-Love Workbook. So we were just talking about that. I feel like that flows into this as well, because we all want to look and feel our best, but I do think there is a balance, right? That we all have to kind of monitor ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I love about like your Instagram account, what you put out there is like, you'll talk about things like filters and how that impacts people mentally, emotionally. I feel like as you give advice and tips, that are about, our outer beauty, you also make sure to always give something else as well that helps us like stay balanced mentally. And I
Yeah.
love that you do that. Will you tell us a little bit about like the gatekeeping and like you post like no gatekeeping and you're just very open emotionally. Will you tell us about that?
Well, I try to as much as I can, but I
Mhm.
even have my, where I'm a hypocrite some days and I
Yeah, we're
make
all human.
mistakes. Always- And I always tell people this, social media is wonderful. It's a great community, blah, 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 blah. It is 100% all marketing, 100% for people's businesses, and 100% a fake reality. And Olivia and I talk about that a lot, but I really want people to know that because I think people think it's reality. And I'm like, no, 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 no. This is like the metaverse. Like this is such a fake world. And I try to be real on it. And I try to be, honest on it. But like filters is one thing where people get so wrapped up and like, no, girl, that's a filter. And people show me what they want to look like as a filter. And I want to say like have you seen the movie Avatar?
Yes.
It's like saying you want to look like an avatar. I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. Like that is a
Right.
computer generated like picture of yourself.
Mhm.
And people are like, but that's what I want to look like. Cause they're so morphed into that. So I think it's just good to reality check people and say, hey, because people's emotions are so tied up into the way they look. Like give yourself a break, enjoy life. My husband always reminds me whenever I get caught up in, I don't look the best, my eyelashes aren't done, my hair's not done, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you get one moment and one life, like enjoy the moment, like stop fixating on the way you look. And I love that.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing all of your, just like the tip of the iceberg of your tips and insights. So where can people go to follow you and continue to learn from you?
Awesome. So Instagram is Injector Bunny and Patreon is Injector Bunny. I want to say Injector Bunny 1, but if you go to Patreon, just put in Injector Bunny.
We'll put it up
Uh,
on screen too for everybody.
And I have a website, injectorbunny.com, that has my trainings on that. I'm trying for baby number 2, so I'm not training as much. So they do sell out kind of quickly, but I speak at all the conferences. So I'm going to be at Aesthetic Extender Symposium in Boca in August, and then Aesthetic Next, which is like the Grammys and the of this aesthetic world in Dallas. It's in Dallas, like the mecca of, I say, because people think of Beverly Hills as like the movie Hollywood scene. The Hollywood of aesthetics is Dallas. Like all the most beautiful injectors live there and all the most beautiful women. Like Dallas, when you walk down the streets of Dallas, you're like, holy, like what's in the water here? Like everyone's so beautiful.
Well, all of the viewers, don't we love to hear it? Thank you.
Of course. And everyone's nicer too. Like I love the personalities.
People are sweet in Dallas. I totally agree.
Oh, thank you
Thank
for
you
having
so much,
me.
Erica. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Bye. Good night.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of BZen TV. Follow the show on Instagram at BZen TV to stay in touch and set your DVR right now so that you don't miss our next all new once monthly episode right here on WFA at 1:11 a.m. on Thursday, late night, August 3rd. Until then, be Zen friends, and we'll see you next time.